I'm here today with Whitney Perez-Wright, the manager of Scott's House, which is a hospice house in Santa Fe where people can come to have a peaceful death.
Yes.
So this is a pretty rare thing in America to have somebody else's house you would go to die.
Right.
How did it come about to be?
Well, actually, if you think about it, it's not that rare for people to die outside of their homes, meaning in hospitals or nursing homes or long-term care facilities. So Scott's House was founded because there's a great need for support for people at the end of life in this country, and there's also a great need for education regarding end of life and death and how to have a good death and what does that even mean. And so kind of basically what we call death literacy. And a lot of these facilities and places that people die, not only are they expensive, so thousands of dollars a month, but they are also not necessarily the most restful environments. If you think about a hospital, you've got beeps, noises, nurses, all sorts of things going on. And a lot of these long-term care facilities, it's quite sad actually, the people end up being in there alone most of the time. There are not a lot of caregiving staff according to how many patients there are. So there's a really great need for true, compassionate, heart-centered care for the dying in this country. Scott's House was founded by Glennis Carl, and with the intention that people could come here for free, completely, and spend their last days to weeks of life being cared for exquisitely. So we're what's called a social model hospice. We run on donations and volunteers only, grants. So we don't get any federal funding. We don't accept money from insurance. We do have paid caregivers and a few paid staff like myself, but we are a nonprofit. So we have a board of directors and an executive director, John Bishop. And then most of our caregivers, the people that provide the 24/7 care to the residents, are retired doctors, nurses, pharmacists, death doulas, students, that are interested in going into healthcare. So these are people who are giving of their time, of their hearts, to care for these people who are in such great need.
There is a growing number of primarily women who are interested in being death doulas.
Yes.
And would they volunteer here to get hands-on experience?
Absolutely, and that's something that my background is hospice nursing, but I also have been through death doula program and studied many different paths to God, so to say. And I would say that one of the best ways to prepare to become a death doula is to spend that time at the bedside of the dying, whether you're speaking to them or not, just being in that space, holding that space. So we do have people that volunteer to do everything from the full-on caregiving part to just sitting and holding somebody's hand or doing the gardening or whatever. So we just have this beautiful community that comes together. But that is a very, very big part of it, and an important part.
Yeah. Now, on the tour, you showed me the area where you keep meticulous notes about each patient and their progress, and you do have medications like a inpatient hospice facility would, morphine, Ativan, any other kind of just the hospice management of symptom medications.
Right, so we collaborate, each one of our residents, one of the requirements is that they are under the care of a hospice agency, because we are not a medical facility. We provide the care that somebody would provide in home for their family member. That's the level of care. So anything medical goes through the hospice company. So each resident has their own locked medication box that has the medications that their specific hospice doctor has ordered for them. And then the hospice company gives us a list of orders, when these medications can be given, for what, and then we keep track of how often they get them. And but it's like if the person was at home or in a nursing facility, they get the medication. If they ask for it, then we unlock the box and we bring it to them, and they give it to themselves, right?
Okay.
If anything medical happens, say they end up passing away or they have a fall or there's a change in status, then we can call their hospice company 24/7. So we'll just report, hey, this is going on with this patient, and then they'll give us orders as to how to proceed.
So to be able to come to Scott's house to spend your final days or weeks, you have to be enrolled in hospice?
Yes.
With a particular hospice company or any of the ones here in Santa Fe?
We work with most of the hospice companies in Santa Fe. There are one or two that we don't work with just because of experiential things, but we work with the vast majority of the hospice companies here in Santa Fe. So, you know, it's just up to the person, whichever hospice company they want to go with, they can go with.
Well, I've had family members die on hospice at home, and we did hire a death doula, actually 2 death doulas came in and worked with us. And it was a big job to be managing people dying at home when you're a family member. I don't think families truly appreciate the level of challenge that happens when you've got a loved one dying at home on hospice.
It can be challenging, especially if you don't have any sort of medical background. So that's where a place like Scott's House can really help lift the burden, because then you have the ability to just be there and be their partner, be their child, and not have to also be their chef and medication administrator and bum wiper and, because that can be completely overwhelming. And that's why, yes, places like Scott's House and private caregivers and death doulas can be so incredibly helpful at these times. I cannot stress how helpful they can be.
Yeah. Death is a messy business.
It sure can be, yeah.
Yeah.
It can be, but I feel like it's a lot more messy if we're not prepared.
Yeah.
And I like to liken it to just going on a big long trip, you know. And if you know you're going on this trip, and you have 2 choices basically. You can either procrastinate getting ready until it's time to run out the door, or you can get all of your affairs in order, make a list for whoever's going to take care of your dog, pack up your suitcase so you have everything that you need, put your stuff by the door, get a good night's sleep, and when it's time to go, you can take a deep breath and just open the door.
I like that.
And for me, that's how
Yeah.
preparing to die is like. And so that's one of those bridges that a death doula can help you cross for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be as messy. It's already probably going to be messy, and we can always find ways to make it a little less messy.
Yeah. So what a blessing this is. And are you packed to the gills? I mean, how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're almost always full. Like right now, the only reason we have an empty room I was able to show you is because someone just left it and somebody's about to come into it.
Uh-huh.
So there's usually a list of people, and what we try to prioritize, John the executive director, and I are the ones that kind of make the decisions regarding admissions, and we really try to prioritize those that are in the greatest need, which is what Scott's House was founded on. So the principles there, meaning those who really are out of financial resources, those who really don't have people. Because those are the 2 things that people run out of, money and people at the end. So we really try to prioritize those 2. Indigent people, people who are unhomed, you know, we really try to work with that. We also really support medical aid in dying and voluntarily stopping eating and drinking, so that's MAID and VSED. 2 legal ways to end your own life compassionately in the state of New Mexico. We work with a lot of people that are under the care of End of Life Options New Mexico, which is another nonprofit that supports that. So we've even had people fly in from out of state where medical aid in dying is not legal, for example, and they will come here, stay at Scott's House, and then do medical aid in dying here at Scott's House. So it's just really a beautiful space that we've been able to hold for so many of those as they cross to the beyond.
Having witnessed, my mother-in-law did medical aid in dying. How many medical aid in dying ingestions have you had here?
I can't count, to be honest. I'm thinking through the statistics in the back of my head, but multiple.
Dozens?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. It is a very peaceful transition. Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, some of the most beautiful deaths I've witnessed, and I really can't count how many have been those medical aid in dying. I call them ceremonies, because that's how it appears to me.
Well, and we did that with my mother-in-law. We had candles and roses and
Yeah.
readings and singing, and it was beautiful.
Yeah. You know, like we said, this is a rarity. We are the only, right now, I think there's another one opening soon in Albuquerque, but we're really the only nonprofit social model hospice home in New Mexico, and there's about 100 in the entire country. So if you think about that and the rising population of baby boomers that are getting older and needing more care, the way
And wanting a say in their exit.
right,
Yeah.
and the way the world is these days,
Yeah.
kids are scattered all over the country, so there's a great need to increase death literacy and to increase the support for the dying in this country. And I feel like I would hope that people would hear this story and be inspired, whether it's getting inspired to learn more about death on your own, to prepare better for your own death, I think that's step one, whether it's that or volunteering at your local hospice home. We're always in need of volunteers. Old folks homes is what we like to call them. But you can go and sing and sit with people and paint people's nails. Like, eradicating that fear of death and the fear of the elderly, and just learning how to be in those spaces, I think, is step one. And then step two is like, okay, how can we help more people? And whether it's volunteering yourself, like I said, or even opening your own nonprofit social model hospice. Like,
Wow.
John and I are here. If anybody, I mean, John's done it from the beginning. He was there with Glennis as he opened it. So he has been involved in all of the hoops you have to jump through to start nonprofits, to, you know, zoning, to, I mean, there's just so much that goes into it. But we're happy to help support if you are interested in opening your own social model hospice home in wherever you are located. So I feel like that's what I would be hoping for.
I would hope that people whose families have had a loved one die here have been grateful with their donations to the Scott's House afterwards.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we're super grateful for. And people donate not just money, but they'll come and fix the porch or, you know, whatever needs to be done. So it's a lot of families, and like I said, grants. We can write grants, and we do that. So we get a lot of support from that. But yeah.
Do you have a website?
Yes, it is www.scottshouse.org. So on the website you can read about the backstory of Scott's House, what inspired Scott's House. Scott is Glennis Carl, the founder's son. He passed away as a young man.
Oh.
He had a terrible accident and was disabled for years before he passed. And Glennis, his mother, had a challenging time taking care of him through those years. So Scott is the one that inspired Scott's House, and you can read more about that story. You can also donate online, and you can watch some different videos about us and what we're here for. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You're doing God's work.
that's what, you know, John calls it soul work.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he says. John, our director, he says what we do here is soul work. It's just helping somebody open one door and walk from one room into the other. And as one of my favorite spiritual teachers of all time, Ram Dass, says, we are all just walking each other home. And so that's what we're here for. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.